There are a total of 131 teams in the FBS. And out of those 131 teams, I would say about 125 of them would be absolutely pumped to have a 10-win season. But for the Clemson Tigers, a 10-win season is considered a disappointment, a down year. But in Clemson's defense, their 3 losses last season, their first loss to Georgia in their season opener, in a game that was the most anticipated college football game of the season going into last season. And they lose 10-3 in a defensive showdown. And Georgia went on to eventually win the national championship. So a 10-3 loss against a team that eventually went on to win the national championship isn't as bad of a loss as it would seem. And then there are other losses on the road against NC State, a double overtime game where they probably could have and should have won. And on the road against Pittsburgh, a 10-point loss, which was their worst loss of the season. But Kenny Pickett ended up being a Heisman Trophy finalist. And Pittsburgh had one of the best offenses in the entire country last year. 2022 is a brand new season for everyone, including the Clemson Tigers. And there are pros and cons to this season for Clemson. I want to start off with the cons. A new offensive coordinator, Tony Elliott, took the head coaching job at Virginia, and a new defensive coordinator, Brent Venables, took the head coaching job at Oklahoma. And DJ Uiagalelei is slated to be the QB1 for the Clemson Tigers coming into the season, who struggled last year. 2,246 passing yards, 9 touchdown passes, and 10 interceptions. So he threw more interceptions than touchdown passes last year. And I was fairly certain it was going to be a quarterback battle between DJ Uiagalelei and Cade Klubnik. But last week, Dabo Swinney came out and made a statement saying that he is the quarterback. He's the starter for Clemson going into the season. But if he struggles early on in the season, who knows how far is his leash? Because we've seen Dabo Swinney make a move before. In 2018, Kelly Bryant was struggling. And eventually he put in Trevor Lawrence as the starting quarterback, and it worked out. They went on to win the national championship. And if they get to ACC play and DJ is struggling, and by ACC play, I am aware they played Georgia Tech in their season opener, which is a conference game. But if they get in the month of October and DJ is still struggling, I imagine that Dabo Swinney is going to put in Cade Klubnik. But the pros for this season for Clemson, 14 returning starters, 7 on offense, 6 on defense, and the kicker. And I want to look on the offensive side of the ball first. 4 out of their 5 starting offensive linemen from 2021 are returning for the 2022 season, which is huge, as a lot of the times college football games are won in the trenches. Leading rusher from last year, Will Shipley, also returns for the Clemson Tigers. And Joseph Ngata returns this season, who Dabo Swinney really was impressed with early on in his Clemson career. On the defense side of the ball, NFL talent all over this defense. Myles Murphy and Brian Breeze. Projected first-round picks in April's NFL draft. Tyler Davis and Xavier Thomas, 2 seniors that add in leadership to that Clemson defensive line. And even the Clemson team as a whole. So Clemson should once again have one of, if not maybe the best defense in college football this season. as they were second in scoring defense in 2021, seventh in rushing defense, eighth in total defense overall. So, again, they should be one of the best defenses in the entire country, and possibly even the best defense in college football. And now I want to get into what everybody is here for, and that is their season predictions. The 2022 season for the Clemson Tigers kicks off on September 5th, Labor Day night against Georgia Tech in Atlanta, a neutral site game. Then on September the 10th, they host Furman. Then on September the 17th, they host Louisiana Tech. And November 24th, their first road game of the season against Wake Forest. Then we get into the month of October. October the 1st, they host NC State, looking to avenge one of their losses from 2021. Then on October 8th, they go on the road to take on Boston College. Then on October the 15th, they go on the road to take on Florida State. Then October 22nd, they host Syracuse. And then that is their bye week. And coming out of their bye week, we get into crunch time in the college football season. November the 5th on the road against Notre Dame. And what is without a doubt their toughest game of the season. Then November 12th, they host Louisville. Then November 19th, they host Miami in what could be a preview of the ACC Conference Championship game. And their regular season, as always, ends against South Carolina on November the 26th. This season, they will be hosting South Carolina. And that wraps up the regular season for them. Now, just by looking at the schedule, as I said a moment ago, their toughest game of the season is, without a doubt, on the road against Notre Dame on November the 5th. Other than that, this schedule is pretty winnable. I get that Georgia Tech, they held their own against Clemson in last year's matchup in what was a 14-8 game. I think that Clemson's going to dominate against Georgia Tech pretty easily in this one. Then against Furman, Louisiana Tech, they should be 3-0. And honestly, they better be 3-0 going into the Wake Forest showdown. They dominated Wake Forest last season. Then they look to avenge their loss against NC State, which I think it's likely to happen. And on the road against Florida State, I get that Florida State has struggled in recent years, but this is a rivalry game, and when games of that magnitude take place, you can throw records and stats and history out of it. You can take everything out of it. Anything can happen in games of that magnitude. And Notre Dame, it depends on how Notre Dame is going into this matchup, because Notre Dame opens up their season against Ohio State. So if Notre Dame can beat Ohio State, then I think the sky is the limit for this Notre Dame team. And they could easily take down Clemson. Because other than that, this schedule is basically a cakewalk. And I would end this with the ceiling versus the floor, but I essentially already did it. I mean, the ceiling for Clemson is obviously college football playoff national champions. As, let's face it, Clemson is one of only 4 teams that have a legitimate chance at winning the national championship this season. And their floor, a loss in the ACC championship game. At the very least, they can get a New Year's 6 bid. I mean, even 10-2. I mean, depending on how Wake Forest and Notre Dame are going into their showdowns against Clemson or even NC State, without a doubt, they're going to have a 10-win season at the very least. So comment your record prediction for the Clemson Tigers in the comment section down below. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, have a wonderful day.